running low, prompting the Biden administration to ask Congress to approve more money. But GOP senators want to probe into allegations that some FEMA aid has gone to migrants here illegally, which Criswell calls ridiculous and false. Now, in the storm response, some communities have also been relying on Starlink to provide internet access. At the same time, Republicans in Congress have started an investigation into a denial of funding for Starlink, one of billionaire Elon Musk's companies. He is a Trump supporter.
The Federal Communications Commission said in December it was denying Starlink over $885 million in subsidies to provide broadband to rural homes because the company failed to meet program requirements and couldn't prove it could deliver on services. Republican House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer wants the FCC to hand over all documents related to the decision to see if proper protocols were followed and to make sure politics didn't come into play. Starlink is the internet unit of SpaceX, which is owned by Elon Musk, who has strongly criticized the FCC's decision. In Washington, Ryan Schmelz, Fox News.
They handed out the Nobel Prize for Physics this morning.
John Hopfield of Princeton University and Geoffrey Hinton, also known as the godfather of artificial intelligence at the University of Toronto. The Nobel Committee saying their discoveries and inventions enable machine learning and artificial intelligence neural networks, which have led to advances used in everyday life, like facial recognition and language translation.
That's Fox's Lillian Wu. On Wall Street, stock futures are rising before the opening bell this hour. I'm Dave Anthony. This is Fox News.
Well, good morning, everybody. This is Bill Adams from the Rent Right Hour, coming to you live from WDXE. Right, Miss Charlotte?
You are on.
Yeah, and we have Mr. David Morgan with us, our county executive today, good friend here. In the absence of Mr. Jeff Hood, he's away with a family issue this morning, so we're gonna make it, David. Good morning.
Yeah, man. Good morning. Thank you for the invitation today, Bill. Appreciate that.
It's great. Glad to have you, and I've been wanting to have you on for a few weeks now. Thank you for the opportunity to have you for this hour and discuss some things with your family. I want to hear some history of your family, what's going on in the county, and also your church. You're a pastor here locally, and you're busy and got a beautiful family. And just thank you for being here.
Yes, sir.
So with that, I just want to say a welcome to our listeners. And, going on, talking about your current roles, maybe you can explain your life, your day-to-day life of what Mr. David Morgan does.
So it's funny, we make a joke that, like, if I divulge too much information about my daily life, it causes some people to have panic attacks, right? Mm-hmm. But it's kind of how I've always been. My dad's always said since I was a little kid, what's Dave doing? Somebody about what's Dave doing? Well, he's got a million irons in the fire. He's got a million irons in the fire. So it's kind of how my life has always been. And Dad can pick on me all he wants, but he was the same way. So the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. But I have the privilege, first of all, man, to be a follower of Jesus. That's right. What Amen. Changed everything about my life and my family's history. And then Stephanie, if you've ever met my wife, you would never believe that she would be dumb enough to marry me, right? And but she's not dumb. I say that the Holy Spirit blinded her and blessed me with her. We'll celebrate 22 years here in December.
Congratulations.
5 kids. And then, I serve, one of the greatest privileges of my life is to preach the gospel. Mm-hmm. And it's something, even when I was considering running for county executive, I just did not want to compromise that opportunity that I have to do that. I don't want to trade that out, right? So that was one of the big discussions I have with a lot of different people when I was considering running. Mm-hmm. And that's what took so long for me to say yes to this. And then I have the privilege, too, of just serving this community as county executive. And, Bill, I didn't realize how much I would love doing the job. Mm-hmm. And all I can say is just thank God for the grace and the strength to do it. And of course, in our spare time, we've got a little farm. We raise grass-fed beef and pork, and the pork you can't totally grass-feed them; they're not ruminants. And then we raise sheep as well. So that's our little getaway and what we do as a family. So
wow, that's great. A lot of activity, a lot of day-to-day, serving your church and your community and your family. And what about personal history in your family? I've gotten to know your family through the years. Everybody's grown and doing their own thing now. But maybe you can go back a few years. Your mom and dad moving to Lawrence County.
Yeah, I remember coming into your place I mean, when I was a little bitty, you know, Titus is 7, my baby boy right now, and he looks exactly like I did at that age. So if you saw him, there might be you might reminisce about Dad coming in there, you know, on a Saturday to rent something to do a job or whatever. So my mother's family is from Ozark, Arkansas area, the mountains of Arkansas, coal mining history there. My dad's family is from Hazard, Kentucky. Same thing in the mountains. You know, coal mining, various things like that. So my parents, of course, are both their dads were in World War II. And post-war, my dad's dad was a career military guy, pre-war and post-war. So Dad was all over the country. Matter of fact, in 9th grade, my father went to 5 different schools in 3 different states before Christmas. Just because my grandfather moved a lot. Now, it wasn't just because the military reassigned him. My grandfather was a struggling alcoholic after the war. Gambling and alcohol addiction was a terrible thing for him. And so my dad's childhood was riddled with poverty and you know, domestic violence and things of that nature. And so anyway, my parents met. At the time, my grandfather Fultz had moved to South Chicago area. There was a boom, a housing boom there. The steel mills were cranked up and going, you know, and America was at, you know, we were at our strongest probably ever industrially and at that time right after the war. So my parents met there in church. My dad's family had never gone to church. He was the oldest of 4 kids. He had 3 little sisters. My dad had a job from the time from like 9 years old, he was driving a pedal cart to deliver ice cream, you know, and he took care. Like as I said, my granddad couldn't hardly keep a job, and you know, he would work, but he'd show up drunk, and you know what I mean. It was just. It's part of what's inspired me to do what I do with recovery as well. It's just that
We're going to talk about that briefly shortly. Yeah.
But anyway, so they, my parents met there in church. There was a little old lady. I can't recall her name. My dad knows it well, and so do my aunts. But she would drive by the Morgan house on her way to church on Sundays, and she'd see these kids out in the yard playing, and she just stopped one day and got to know them and got to know the family and just asked if she could take the kids to church. And I can imagine my grandmother, you know, she was working in industry doing whatever she could do. And she's probably like, yes, please take them. You know, she'd get a Sunday morning off, you know. And so that's how Dad started going to church. And he got saved at 17, I believe, and everything changed. God literally uprooted our family tree, and I say he took it from a desert place and he planted it beside streams of living water. And, and we've been blessed ever since. So long story short, Dad went to Purdue University, and when he got out of high school, he went to a technical high school, which we don't really know what that is down here in the South, but you could choose like the different types of high schools you went to up there. And so he went to a tech school. He was valedictorian or salutatorian in his class. Dad worked really hard in school, and then he went on to Purdue and got an industrial electrical engineering degree there. And then he moved south. They moved back south. They always wanted to come back to the South. It just, you know, the northern culture just wasn't who they were. And so they moved back down here before I was born. They moved down here in the late 60s, early, I think maybe 69 or 70, something like that. And so landed in Savannah, Tennessee. My dad pastored over there for a long time, and several years. And then when I was 1, First Assembly of God had been opened here in Lawrenceburg in 1960. And so in 1979, they were on the verge of closing the church down. They only had they had 7. My dad always says, David, no matter how successful you've been as the pastor, you never doubled the church in one day. He said, that's what I did. And I was like, well, Dad, you did it the old-fashioned way. You know, you had 5 kids in tow with you when you came over here. So from Savannah, Tennessee, about an hour west of here, they moved over here. And the first Sunday, they had 7 people other than the 7 Morgans. Of course, the 7 Morgans were 5 boys, Mom and Dad, and there was a family band. Like, they were able to do the worship team and everything because all my brothers play music. We all play music. But anyway, so, yeah, he gives me a hard time even still to this day about that, in which we honor him for that. My parents have only owned one new home in their life, and it was in Savannah. They just built it on the river. Dad was very successful. He brought a pretty a technical education from Purdue to the South, and he had more work than he could possibly do with industrial electrical engineering down here because industry was relatively new in automation and all that in the South. So Dad did really well over there, but he felt the call of God to move here. So that's how we ended up in Lawrenceburg, and I'm so thankful. I love my Hardin County friends and all that, but man, there's something special about Lawrence County, and so I got to live in the blessing of being in Lawrence County, and so.
Well, that's great. We love your dad, and I've had the privilege of knowing him and continue to know him now. Quick question: does he still preach some?
Dad teaches preaching because we do multiple services.
Yeah.
He doesn't really have the energy.
Yeah.
I try to push him a little bit to do it still.
Yeah.
But he hasn't maybe in the last year or so. But every Wednesday night, and my dad did this for years and years, he teaches a line-by-line Bible study class, and it's full. And there'll be 30, 40 people in there, and he just walks through the Word. My dad has always been a student of the Word. Every single night of my life, if you went in his room before he goes to bed, that Bible's open, and he's in the Word.
Amen.
So that is... Yeah, I think Proverbs 4:23 says, "Guard your heart,
yes,
because from it are the well springs of life."
That's right.
And that's something I got to witness. My dad, here's the thing: he's always been bivocational as a pastor, because when you get 7 members in the church, it's not going to pay to feed a family.
That's right.
Of 8 then, because Heather was born in 1980. But so he's always worked, and that's something I always seen. Hey, you can be successful in life doing both. I think that's why a lot of people are questioning, like, why would you get involved? You're a pastor, you got a successful church, all this stuff. And I don't know. I think you have one life to live, and sometimes God puts opportunities in front of you to make a difference. And of course, Dad always told me this. He said, everybody has to make a living, but not everybody gets to make a difference. He says you were created to make a difference. Yeah. So if you could figure out how to make a living, and he said if you'll focus on making a difference, let me get his words right, then God will take care of the living.
Wow. Yeah. That's wisdom.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a fabulous story, and I know you and your family have been a big asset to Lawrence County. And in the 70s, when you were young, you were coming into our store, Rent Right, over on Buffalo Road. I remember all you guys coming in, and
I would have been one. So I was born in '78. So they might have been hauling me in because we wired a lot of houses. So we wired houses and things on the weekends, on Saturdays. And Dad worked for Nelson Electric. He worked for Evers. He worked.
That's right.
In '95, DRM started, and my dad left Evers with about 12 other guys, Jeff and Barry and my brother Tim and a handful of them, to start DRM. And the field offices were at my house for the first, 5 years or so.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. And you're exactly right about. I'm curious. Maybe we can talk about it later about the Tech High School, and that's a big movement right now. And I'm involved with the school board now.
Yes, sir.
And
glad to have you on there,
thank
Bill.
you.
By the way,
yeah, it's fun. It's a learning mode right now. The CTE, and it's growing in our high schools.
Yes, sir.
Very excited about that, and maybe we can talk about that.
I'd love to.
As we move forward here. So we've talked about your personal history a little bit, and your family, beautiful family here. Your role as executive, Lawrence County executive, is that the proper term?
We are holding to that because there's only 9 counties in the state that still call us the county executive. At one time it was county judge in some areas. I'm glad I don't have to do the things that county judges used to do, So, but yeah, county executive, Lawrence County. We hold, and us 9 county executives, we're proud of that. We hold on to that.
Executive.
And of course, I always make jokes. I don't want to be called the mayor because then people will mistake me for Blake, and then I give Blake a hard time, say, no, he's the mayor of Lawrenceburg. I'm the county exec. So.
Well, maybe you can explain to our listeners your role as executive.
Okay.
Just day to day. In the office, what are your responsibilities?
So, and I think the word executive is more true to my role as well, because like a city mayor, it's not a part-time job as far as you have to always kind of be on, right? But there's not a demand of a full-time presence of your time. But now as county executive, I am the CEO of the county, if you will, when it comes to county departments, right? So you've got the library, you've got maintenance, you've got solid waste, you've got EMS, you've got multiple departments. There's 9 different ones, I believe, or 9 different ones that I'm directly that they report to me. And so I'm the head over those department heads. So that's my role there. So I'm managing, numerous employees underneath that umbrella. But the statutory position that I hold according to law, that's probably most important that most people may not realize is I'm the CFO of the county, the chief financial officer. So I'm responsible. The commission is the legislative branch of government. I'm the executive branch. The commission is responsible for passing laws, setting the budgets, and all those kind of things. I present a budget to them, but they have to pass it. They're the ones that get to vote on everything. But I have to execute it. So I say I execute the mission of the county commission. I also have the privilege as county executive to speak to that mission and help guide that mission and help direct that mission. But man, I have learned really in 2 years. I like to get a consensus from the commissioners. I like to get there's great ideas. It's something I learned a long time ago as a pastor too. Like there's a lot of great ideas of the people in the pews. There's ministry waiting to happen if I can help them believe that their idea and what God is speaking to them has value. And so a lot of pastors, we'll try to carry the load all by ourselves or with our family, but I realized a long time ago, man, it's better to get more people involved and not,
It sure is. Not a one-man band.
No,
is it?
it's not.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah. How many county employees? Do you have a clue?
We have about 270.
270? Okay. All right. That's interesting. 270 and the different departments. See, I don't think that a lot of people understand. Even the library is under your leadership. We hear topics like sheriff's department and EMS is fairly popular. I want to talk about trash just in a few moments.
Hey, let's talk trash, man. I'm fine with
that seems to be the hot topic right now that we don't want to deal with. But
we have to.
You got to take the trash out.
Yep.
That's my responsibility at home to put it in that trash can, and then where it goes from there, who knows?
Right.
So if you want to speak to that, what's going on and what's on the horizon and how it works in our county, where it goes.
Well, let me just back up then for a second. You asked me earlier, what's my daily life like or whatever. Let me just a rundown of the last 10 days, Bill, in our life, okay? I was, well, maybe if we stretch it back to 12, I was at a Keep Tennessee Beautiful retreat last week. I'm sorry, let's go back 10. So 10 days ago, roughly, our oldest child got married, okay?
Right.
So Peyton married Kendall Franklin. Boy from Loretto, love his family.
Keith works for us.
Yeah,
by the way.
Keith is your guy. You're over all your maintenance
Yeah.
and stuff now, right?
Yeah.
He oversees all that.
Yeah.
So Keith's my brother now, and I love Keith, man. Isn't he a great guy?
He's great.
You're blessed to have him
Thank
working
you.
for you.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that we had a wedding on a Saturday, Sunday, of course, church, and in the next week, I went to this Keep Tennessee Beautiful campaign. So it's a retreat thing in Memphis. It's actually a training. They call it a retreat, but it's a training. So you sit through these sessions all day long for 2 days and learn about ways to keep Tennessee beautiful, keep us clean. And I'm the only county mayor that was there. And the lady that runs that nonprofit organization, she was so excited that I would come. She says most of the time they just send their surrogates or somebody else. And I said, well, this is my first time. Maybe I won't be here next time. I just joked with her, and she's like, oh, no, you better. But, then I learned a ton at that, Bill, and then came back to town, had some meetings in Nashville on Friday and Saturday. Of course, church on Sunday. But I will say this. Our son was involved in an accident Sunday afternoon on I-24, a 9-car collision. The only reason why I bring it up is you never know what's going to happen in your life, and you never know when tragedy's knocking at the door. My son and his friend drove my aunt's little Mazda Miata. He loves driving this little 2-seater go-kart around, and I had apprehension about him going to Clarksville. He's going to church in Clarksville. Got some friends up there from camp, and there may be a girl involved. I don't know. That goes to church up there. But anyways, what do you do when your son's up at 7 a.m. on Sunday morning excited about getting to the, the 10 a.m. service in Clarksville? So we let him go. And I just prayed, Lord, keep him safe. Well, got a call at lunch on Sunday afternoon, and there was, Dad, he was all frantic. And he's like, I'm okay, but we've been in a wreck. So somebody came across the median, hit the car in front of him head on. 9-car collision, 1 fatality, another one that's on the verge of. We don't know what's going on with that lady. But I just was thanking God. We were at a prayer meeting Sunday night at church, and I just said, we pray here and we ask God for a lot of things. And God doesn't always answer our prayers.
That's true.
And it's just true. But how many things is God doing for us that we're not even aware that he's doing? So we always have a reason to be thankful.
Yep.
And, of course, here the preacher in me is getting back to the Lord because he is the wellspring of my life. But working in county government and doing all that we do, all I can say is, God just gives us grace every day to keep moving, Bill. And I don't know how people make it through life without that,
That's true. Yeah.
And I know there's a lot of people that really, they don't know the Lord, and they may know of him, but do they know him? And so,
true.
I don't know. And I'm off topic, I'm sure.
No,
you can
that's
guide
true.
me back around. But,
yeah. And the motto, just briefly here, the motto that I have this year, David, is people just simply need to hear the gospel, regardless if it's on a radio program or sitting in a pew or wherever. They just need to hear the gospel. And we know that the Spirit changes lives.
Yes, it does.
And that's my encouragement.
We were talking trash
today.
right?
Trash. Let's go back to trash.
Okay, we're talking trash.
All right.
Everybody has garbage.
There you go.
So I'm getting picked on a little bit by some folks in the community because I've written several articles about trash and about recycling and all that kind of stuff. And they're like, oh, I thought David was this big conservative, whatever.
Yeah.
And, truth is conservative principles would lend us to being responsible, right? First
True.
and foremost. And I think taking care of your own garbage in your home is being responsible. And if there are things that you're putting in the garbage can that can be put in another bin and then recycled and utilized again, then that's as conservative a principle as I know there is.
It is. Yeah.
And so, anyway, people say I'm getting a little soft or tree hugging or whatever they want to say. But whatever. I don't really care what they say about all that. So, when it comes to the solid waste facility, as a county executive, I am responsible for the day-to-day operations of overseeing that facility. And Gary Wayne Hyde is the director of Lawrence County Solid Waste, and which is unique, the only person in the state, we're the only county in the state that has this relationship. He's also the sanitation director for the city of Lawrenceburg.
Right.
So a lot of people, like I had a question the other day, somebody was getting on me about, this $25 demo fee that we have to pay for one 2x4 or one brick when we show up there. And I said, well, that's not a county fee, guys. Like the city has put a demolition, they have a demolition landfill out of Wildcat Ridge. So they have put a demolition dumpster at the dump for convenience sake, so people don't have to go to Wildcat Ridge, so that when they come to bring other garbage, to our transfer station, which is the county-owned facility up there, that if they have demo waste, they can put it in the demo dumpster.
Right.
But now the city has a fee. It's $25 minimum fee. So, and I know that's frustrating. And I mean, I've had plenty of people say, well, I'll just throw that block out on the side of the road, or I'll throw that tube before. And people do that. They do, Bill. So, I mean, there's always challenges, and we're trying to come up with solutions. But like this guy I'm talking to, he's in the know, and Lawrence County's lived here his whole life, and he is very involved politically. And he had no idea that wasn't our fee. So sometimes a cooperative relationship,
Sure.
there's overlap and responsibility gaps. But man, I'll tell you this. So Gary Wayne Hyde, first of all, incredible guy.
He is.
Began his career on the back of a garbage
He
truck.
knows trash.
He knows it, man.
That's right.
And you know what? He loves it.
He does.
Like Gary Wayne could retire right now, and he'd be fine.
We don't need him to retire.
No, we don't. I keep yanking his chain. No, man. Hang around. And he's somewhat of a legend, to be honest with you, in Tennessee when it comes in the trash world. So my first year in, he was voted in the whole state solid waste director of the year for the counties, and now he was voted this year as a number one recycler, like had got the big recycling award. And that's one thing people might not understand. By law, we have to recycle a certain percentage of our waste stream. 25%, I believe it is. And so
Where does it go? Where does it go when we
when
recycle?
we recycle?
Yeah.
So we have different. So we actually shop that out. So we'll set. Gary Wayne has a very good skill with this. So we'll have bales of cardboard. We'll have bales of plastic. Number 1, number 2 plastic. We'll have bales of aluminum. And he shops the market around and kind of waits till that gets to where he can maximize the profitability on that stuff. Giles County, don't tell them, but they send all of their cardboard to us. You know, they don't have a recycling program over there. They don't have a baler and all that we have. So that's a blessing really for us. John Myers, I see his picture on the wall over there. He allows inmates to come to our transfer station, and they have a picking line. So they'll have 5 or 6 dumpsters that have down the line, and they're pulling from the recycle bags. Now, here's what happened to me, Bill, at my house. When we started recycling a year and a half ago, I have 2 garbage bins, 2 big plastic bins, and we'd fill those up pretty much every week. To the point of I'd have to take my little 6-year-old sometimes and have him jump up and down on the garbage before we roll it out on Monday morning. Now, because we're recycling, about 90% of our garbage goes to the recycle bin, and now we may fill up a half of one of those cans a week with things that can't be recycled. And we got pigs and all that too at the farm, so there's a lot of food waste that we just send to them. And so, man, it has streamlined our trash. And if you think about, the county pays for garbage by the ton. So we pay a company. It's been $65 a ton since October 1st of last year, and we do about 25,000 tons a year. So that's what we pay for them to load it at our facility. So the
25,000 tons. Okay. All
per
right.
year. So the guys that are sitting on the backhoe, or the little backhoe and the loading machine, the little track hoe and the loading machine at the solid waste facility, they work for our contractor. All right, and so they push the trash into their own trailers, and I can see why they would want to do that, and then they have trucking that comes and picks up those trailers and moves it to northeast Mississippi right now. It's a landfill. It's 100 miles from here, and they ship that to Mississippi.
So there is a revenue stream coming back this way, where you pay for the recycled cardboard and whatnot.
Yeah, it
whatever.
keeps our costs low. Yeah.
So, but we're paying out $65 per ton. So does it cash flow? Is it?
Have we broke even yet?
Broke even? Yeah.
So
how are we doing with that?
I want to give all kind of props to my predecessor, T.R. Williams, also to our former budget director, Teresa Purcell. She did a great job in her role there over the years. It's a tough job. I'm just going to say that because it's not like business. You can't make decisions on a dime. You know what I mean? You can't take risks that you would like to be able to take maybe in business. And then you've got to get a consensus to get anything done too. So it takes time.
It does.
But when I came in, we were annual in the red, $700,000 a year in solid waste. And according to state law, the statute says that a solid waste fee can and should pay for the cost of solid waste. It's a user fee, right? It's not a tax, even though people may believe it is, but there is a difference between fees and taxes. And so here's what we were doing. We use the term a penny in the what's the penny value of a county, right? And that's based upon a lot of different factors. There's a calculation. So our penny value is about $105,000, and so we were putting 7, almost 8 pennies into solid waste every year. Same thing we were doing in EMS too, and we've been able to remedy a considerable amount of both of those in the last 2 years. I'm very proud of what the commission's allowed us to do, collectively. But those are pennies that otherwise could go to schools, they could go to roads, they could go, to a lot of different things that county government really has to use property taxes to pay for. So there's always a battle there to balance that stuff out. We're getting there. I know the solid waste fee was raised this past year, and that's a big deal. To a lot of folks. It was raised $1 a week.
Yeah.
So $52 a year was, I think, the increase. The deal with that bill is it hasn't been changed or increased
True.
in 20-something years.
Yep.
An incremental, we get our price increases every year. Like there's a CPI marker in our contract with our waste provider, right? So every year, and it cannot exceed 3.5%, I think it is now, or whatever. This new contract that we're negotiating right now. So they raise our rate every year.
Right.
But yet we just allowed that to keep digging a hole, and we just kept filling that in with property tax dollars.
That's right.
Well, property taxes had to be raised, what,
Yep.
8 years ago? I'm proud to say I don't see in my next 2-3 years, I don't see a need for us to raise property taxes because I think we can be fiscally responsible with what we have, and the growth is helping us too.
That's
so,
right.
So anyway, that's going to help
That's
us
good.
to
Yeah.
not be able to
All
not
right.
have to raise.
Well,
that.
let me give a shout out to Mr. David Morgan visiting with us today, and this hour is sponsored by Rent Right Incorporated, 721 Buffalo Road. And as we mentioned earlier, Mr. Tony Morgan was a customer of ours in 1978, the year we opened. So we're here to serve the community. We've been here a long time with rental equipment, outdoor power products, and thanks to WDXE for letting us host this hour. And
Yes, sir.
my name is Bill Adams. I'm filling in for Jeff Hood, family emergency over the weekend. So we're making it, David, through this hour.
Jeff
so,
will be proud of you, I think. Today. You're handling
well,
it well.
maybe he will be. And I'm not near as funny as Jeff, but we're making it just fine. So we've talked about the county and what's going on in the county. You mentioned EMS earlier.
Yeah.
And there's been some talk about number of ambulances and population growth and how large our county is. It's a long ways from Lauderdale County to Murray County. And so
It is.
maybe you can speak to that and the needs and what you see on the horizon for as infrastructure needs and what's going on in the county. Can
Okay,
you
great.
speak
Yeah.
to some of
so,
that?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to say extremely proud of our EMS staff, our leadership over there. Michelle Ayers and Kane Watkins do a great job. Got a meeting with them this afternoon. EMS is a challenge. Yeah, you said it. You said it right. It's a huge county. We're the 8th largest county in the state as far as land mass is concerned. And if you look at the population of Lawrence County, we're actually the largest county between Memphis and Chattanooga. So on the 64 corridor across the south of the state, we are the largest county there, and we're the fastest growing county in that region. So as much as I'd like to keep it quiet that Lawrence County is the best place in the world to live, I think the word is getting out there, and but I'm so thankful. A lot of the people that are moving in here from out of state and maybe from other parts of the state, we're getting the best. I think a lot of people are leaving where they live because they want a culture like Lawrence County has. And so EMS, for instance, is something we are responsible as a county to provide a 911 service, emergency medical service, right? And so whether you contract with another company, a hospital to provide that, or whether you have your own, you're required to do that. Also, this is not a law, but it's the suggestion of the state government, is that for every 10,000 residents that you have one ambulance, right? So we have 46,000 people, and we staff 4 full-time ambulances, right? That's our goal every day, is to have 4. We schedule 4, but right now, Bill, oftentimes we're only running 3, and it's based upon, what's going on with the staff. If somebody, if one person, it's a 2-man team on an ambulance, right? So if one person calls in sick or something happens, then we're scrambling to get someone to fill that spot. And so there's a lot of, let me just say, there's a lot of policy and procedure things I'm working on with EMS right now to improve some things. But here's the thing: those people, their job is different than like my office staff. Okay, and those folks are on the. Every time they get a call, it could be they are there to prevent death.
Sure.
Think about it. Every time they get a call. And the things they see and the trauma that they walk around with, You know, my wife's a nurse, and she's worked in ER, she's worked in med surg, now she's settled into women's health. You know, but like those folks carry a lot of.
They're on the edge all the time.
They are. And it's the same thing with sheriff's deputies, people that are in law enforcement.
Yes.
Anybody that's a first responder. When you get a call, it's not, hey, come over, there's a bar mitzvah, or there's a birthday party going on, let's have a good time. No, when you get a call, somebody's life is on the line, you know, and so that's why you're there. So it's a tough job, and there's a lot of turnover in that job. A lot of times, you know, they're underpaid. Look, when I came in, I mean, within the first 4 months, I proposed, and the commission passed it, that we gave them a $4 an hour raise, which was at the time a 19% raise, you know, which is huge, right? But the turnover we had was unbelievable. And what happens is these other counties around us, they'll raise the rate, you know, $1 or something, or 50 cents, and a lot of times folks will, I mean, they're trying to take care of their families, right?
Sure.
They're trying to make it so, and it's so they'll go to get that other job. And so what we've done in the last 2 years, first of all, we did a survey of all the counties that are similar to us in size and the ones that had county-owned ambulance services. You know, because some of these counties have a hospital they contract with to run their ambulance, like Wayne County, Lewis County, various other counties. Well, a hospital can lose money on ambulances. You know, because they just want to get them into the hospital. They want to get them into the ER.
Add the cost on somewhere else.
Right. They're gonna, if they can get them through their ER, they're gonna make some money in the ER, hopefully. And then if they admit them to the hospital, then they're gonna. Hey, look, and hospitals are struggling too. I mean, they just are right now, especially rural hospitals like this one, to make it all work. But anyway, so a county-run EMS, we don't have that. We don't have we don't have a emergency room to pay for the bills, right? So there's an expectation then that there's going to be some loss there. But here's what we did. Like, we just said, hold on a minute. Like, let's compare our rates. Like, what are we charging insurance companies, Bill? I mean, 74% of our calls are Medicare or Medicaid, you know, or uninsured. So there's 26% that have private insurance. So we hadn't raised those rates in over 20 years. So we weren't even on a market average. So it'd be like you're in the rental business. All right, what's it cost to rent? Well, I had a young man trimming my trees recently, and he rented that lift from you. I think it was $265 a day or something, or half a day, and then maybe $300 for a whole day. I don't remember what it is. But if you don't change that rate for the next 21 years, and you know, Collier up or Cotter up here or whoever else is renting stuff, you know, their rate's going to be double that.
Can I ask a fair a question? Why has it not been raised periodically through the years?
That's a good question. I think a fresh perspective helped maybe a little bit.
True.
8 commissioners overturned this year. I mean, when I came in, there was 9 of us that were new. So we're just looking at this like, why we got a $700,000 hole in it? Well, we just kept funding it with property tax, And here's the deal, Bill. People don't want to. They get in their room and they're more concerned about getting reelected sometimes. And look, that's a real concern, Bill. I want to do this job again. I would love to, but I know I'm going to be challenged on some of this stuff. But bottom line is, I can't look at it like I want to be reelected. I've got to look at it like we got to do what's right now. My dad always we'd work and Saturdays and stuff at Wirehouses. We'd listen to Tennessee football games on the radio, you know, while we're working. And Dad, he would say, "When's the right time to do the right thing?" And the answer had to be right now, you know.
That's good.
Or all the time, you know. That's what you had to say. When's the right time to do the right thing?
You need to write these sayings down from Tony.
Yeah.
Brother Tony.
I do.
Yeah,
I
you
do.
need to start a list for me, okay?
I do. He's a wise man. But I think here's the thing, and no, this is no shade at anyone that's been here prior to me, especially my friend TR and others. Here's the deal. In county government, I look at it like a big wheel, like on The Price is Right. You know, you got that big wheel, and you got all these different things that you're responsible for and concerns on there. And every day, one of those is catching on fire. Like there's something that needs your immediate attention.
Yes, sir.
And by the time you get that fire out, I mean, it's still smoldering, it's smoking. All of a sudden, another one starts over here, and you click the wheel around. So a lot of times, it just takes time. And I think the opportunity presented itself with me because when I campaigned, this is what I heard. from everybody. Everywhere I went was about EMS, about EMS, about EMS. First responders, about county fire. So I actually started when I came in. I started an emergency services committee. Prior to that, the place that these organizations like EMS, county fire had to go to, they went to the safety committee, right? But the safety committee is also responsible for setting safety policy for all the county employees and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot. So I started a committee that just focuses on emergency services, and it gives those folks a place to come and voice their concerns and what they need. And so I filled that committee up with four commissioners that have emergency services backgrounds. And then I put 4 people from the emergency services world that actually are working in it every single day. I put on that committee, I put Tyler McDowell, who's our county fire chief at this point. I put Jay Moore on there, who's the chief of the largest fire department in the county, who also backs up our county fire departments. I put Shelton Barnett on there, who's over our our emergency EMA. And then I'd recommended our 911 director, Chad Moore, be on there as well. So anyway, that's kind of where it came from.
That's great.
I don't know. You got to run. I looked at all this, Bill, to think like I've got to run this like it's my family, like my family's future depends on it. Like it would be your family business. At least, it needs to at least break even, right?
Well, we're not going to cover all the topics today that I wanted to cover, but this hour is sponsored by Rent Right Incorporated and 721 Buffalo Road here in Lawrenceburg. Be glad to help you with all of your rental needs and outdoor power equipment. Please come by and see us. That's 762-8187. A couple of questions, Mr. David, is that I want to touch on before we wind down. We got 15 minutes here. What are some projects that we touched on a few? I know roads are fixing to be addressed in the near future. Which overall, I think we do a great job with roads, as many miles of roads that we have, and so there is some needs. We had a hard winter last year, and those guys really work hard. You want to speak to roads just a minute?
Yeah.
And after that, I want to talk about maybe projects that you see coming.
Yeah, Ryan Creek, our road superintendent, is doing an incredible job. He is such a joy to work with too. His whole staff, Patsy Lee over there, she knows what's going on inside and out. Ryan, so the commission just did something that's unprecedented, really, in county history. So we've just secured a bond for the county, which people have their opinions on how much debt we need to be in or whatever. But of course, we run it up the flagpole with the comptroller's office, made sure everything was good, that we can handle it, and we can. We're in a healthy place to be able to handle the debt we have. Anyway, so $6 million of that $21 million is going toward roads. You're on school board now, so hey, man, we're handing you $12 million, $13 million,
yes,
I think
sir.
it is, to be able to help with expansion needs as our community continues to grow. Michael Atkins, man, very trustworthy, incredible guy as well. I'm excited about y'all's future with all of that. Of course, $13 million doesn't go far, but it'll at least allow us maybe to loosen the belt, if you will, one notch in some of these places where we need to. And then the county reserved a little bit, about $3 million roughly for county buildings and things, and I'll get to that in a moment. But yeah, this last winter was devastating with the freeze we had. The cracking in the roads. My farm's in Piney. We drive Piney Road and Pondfield Road, and they've been out there working on different things and on some of the roads that tie into those, and you can really see a difference being made. Ryan is already spending that money, so you said it's coming. No, he's already spending it.
Right.
So we had a special session in August to put it to where he could go ahead and get that money in his account and start spending it. So, because here's the deal, the price of materials, Bill, is the problem.
Yes.
I mean, it's gone up 40-something%
right.
just in the last few years. So if we can buy our materials front load and buy our materials now, this fall, for what we're going to do over the next few years, you can pile up a lot of these materials. You can store a lot of these materials. So if we can go ahead and buy it now, then we can see progress over the next 2 and 3 years. Ryan can. And really see a difference long term. The state gave us $3.5 million this past fiscal year to do state aid roads, which are connecting roads between 2 state highways or something. So that's helped us. I'm petitioning right now. I'm petitioning the state hardcore. I'm not getting much leverage with the rest of the county mayors, but they have a huge surplus in the state right now. And of course, if Kip and Clay are listening and Paige, they know what I'm talking. I've been on about so. Why can't, instead of us waiting for the state to say, hey, here's you a few $1 million toward roads, why can't they give us a percentage of the sales tax that they keep, right? So 7% of the 9.75% sales tax that we have, the state keeps every bit of that. And they've got a surplus at the state. So I'm a conservative, and there's no more conservative principle than local government, local people making local decisions to affect local situations. Decentralization of power, right? I mean, that's the difference. The anti-federalists, it goes all the way back to Thomas Jefferson.
Yeah.
But so I'm saying, why don't y'all give us, and municipal leagues behind this too, the cities. Why don't y'all give the cities and the counties 0.5% of the sales tax back for a season? For when we get the roads in Tennessee fixed, right? Instead of having to go up there and fight for who's going to give money to where and what county and how much, just let us make our own decision with that money. And I'm okay if they say, okay, 0.5% for the counties, 0.5% for the cities. Let's just say that was it. It's a lot of money. And they said it can only be used to buy road building materials.
Let's talk about, I'm going to ask you about a particular project that's going on now.
Yeah.
It's a new connector from Industrial Park.
Yeah.
Right, over to Buffalo Road. Can you speak to that and kind of the thought process behind that? I think it's a fabulous idea.
Oh yeah. So it's gonna be huge now. Just get this idea. A lot of people think that these decisions are made like that,
Sure.
right? This has been something that's been on TDOT's plan for a long time. I'm talking years.
Before the bypass?
Yeah, well, the southern bypass was built, but then this was like another.
Sure.
This was so even now on TDOT's long-term perspective plan. There's a northeast bypass through around New Prospect up into Etheridge. That's on their plan too. When we get that, we don't know. Sometimes that can sit there for 10, 15, 20 years on their map. It's according to who's up there fighting for it. So anyway, this one is to help divert trucking traffic from coming through the middle of Lawrenceburg. Hindsight's 20/20 on the bypass we have now, but sometimes it seems like it might have been better coming through the north. Or I think there were a lot of issues with the bridges that had to be built and snail darters and various things. There's all kind of environmental things that you consider. So that's being built, and we've actually had a meeting with TDOT's regional guy and his whole staff weeks ago, and we're actually talking about Buffalo Road now. We need to widen in front of your place all the way down to 64.
It's a EMS concern down through there.
We had an accident right there in front of your building.
Yes, and very, very serious. So a lot of trucks through there, and so there's maybe possibly a plan for the
we're
Buffalo
really
Road
pressing
area.
them on it right now, and they're attentive, they're listening, and they're doing all their studies right now. So they got to go through a lot of different stuff. Well, that drainage, that's the big deal in Buffalo Road is, you don't have just a ditch, you have like a creek.
So that ties into our industrial growth. Real quickly, that's one thing. So all this is tied together, trash and EMS and population growth, industrial growth. Can you speak to industrial growth and how transportation, it all fits together? We got to get these products out of these factories.
Oh, exactly.
On the road.
Well, one of the things, even with solid waste bill that we're looking at right now, I'm petitioning the commission to let us do a feasibility study for doing a rail transfer station. And what that would do would be, we would have 6 rail cars. 1 rail car a day is all it would take. 5 truck trailers can go in 1 rail car. So we could take 5 trucks in and out. So that's 10 trips a day. We could eliminate that from our streets with garbage and that kind of weight.
Almost a no-brainer.
Yeah. So, but the cost and figuring all out.
Okay.
So feasibility studies, government, bureaucracy, and the wheels get bogged down sometimes. But you're dotting every I and crossing every T, and that's what you're doing in government. And you have to, and I'm thankful for that. When it comes to industry, man, look, if people don't understand and see it at this point with Magna International coming here, it's an unprecedented investment in Lawrence County industrial when it comes to our industry, like unto the effect I believe that Murray, Ohio had in Lawrence County back in the day. You know, it's you know, some people are a little up in the air about this whole EV market, right? I know Oval City has been put on hold for a couple years, but the good thing about Magna is they're diversified. It's a stamping facility. They're making frames for trucks. Just so happen to have the Lightning contract, but they also have other contracts, right? So they're diversified, just like Modine is. Modine, 600 something employees. They were the sponsor of our 75th anniversary chamber event. One of the things as a county mayor that I'm responsible for too is the balance of agriculture and industry. You know, we are an agrarian county. We still are. It's the number one economic driver, right? And it's not going to change. Even with Magna being here, that's not going to change. We'll still be an agrarian culture. And I know a lot of times everybody wants the same land. For industry, they want flat, good land. So do farmers, right? But I had the privilege a few months ago. We were at the airport for a fly-in. I took my kids out there and went up in a little 4-seater plane. You know, my wife was out of town, so I could do something like that with my 2 little ones. You know, and I had just been dealing. I think we'd had the chamber farmers thing, and I go to the Farm Bureau regional meetings and things like that, and hey, I'm a farmer now myself, or a rancher, I guess you'd say, with these animals. But when I flew over, just the area we flew over, I noticed how small Lawrenceburg is in comparison to the rest of the county. I mean, it's a blip on the radar compared to the rest of the county.
Yes, sir.
And I know we've just expanded our industrial park, and it's some really good farmland. A good friend of mine has farmed that for a long time, John Rose, and you know, he's fit to be tied over, you know, expansion into farmland, and I understand that. I wouldn't want industry right next door to me, and I've got a family in my church that their farm is adjacent to that farm, that expansion up there. But there has to be a balance of opportunity for our people. I mean, even with these farmers, their children, you know, the average age of a farmer in Tennessee is like 67, I think, or something like that. Their children oftentimes are not farming. They can't afford to. I mean, a combine's combine with the headers on it's $1.2 million. You know, so
you don't hear very many first generation farmers. No, I know of one in the last 20 years that just cranked.
I call myself a first gen guy, but I'm not row cropping. I mean, the cost of row cropping's exponential.
Housing needs. Talk about housing needs.
So that is our big need right now. There are some developments coming in, and some remedies going to be placed for that, but there's still a need. The housing. When you talk to, when Tennessee, of course, is on the radar. We are the most industrialized state when it comes to automotive, for sure, in the nation now. We're the number 1 state for Tier 1 automotive part manufacturing. And so for Lawrence County, the issue we have is housing, and some of that is even rental property. Some of that is like condominium type, where young people would live, 20-somethings, you know, young married people or just out of college. Where are they going to live? And then, you know, single-family dwellings is something we need, and I know a lot of people are making moves right now to expand that, but that is a need for us, and that is one of the things that could potentially be an issue for us if we don't get ahead of it.
Right. All right. Industrial outlook, maybe things that projects that are on the horizon beyond Magna.
So every day
Day?
the chamber's getting requests for information from Lawrence County pretty much on a regular basis. I think last year, I can't remember how many. You'd have to check Ryan Egley. He's all over that. But it doesn't always fit here. And I think that was part of your questions was, what are we looking for? Here's the thing. We're not a beggar anymore when it comes to industry or when it comes to needing jobs here in Lawrence County. We have an incredibly low unemployment rate here in Lawrence County, and so we can be very choosy on what comes here. And that's one of the things I love about the Magna project is that it's not battery waste. It's not any of that. And I know there's always been a lot of misinformation out there. But so with this new industrial park expansion, we get to be, you know, the cards are more in our favor, I would say, than maybe they have been over the last 20 years.
Tax base shop local. We hear that cliche a lot. How does that impact Lawrence County?
Oh man, it's huge for us, Bill. We keep a 2% of the sales tax. If I'm not looking at my budget right now, so forgive me for that number. And Brandy's probably hearing me right now. She's like, no, it's this, but we get to keep that in the county and put that towards. So the more goods and services that are sold and traded right here in Lawrence County, the less money we need to do the things we got to do, and the less chance of having to ever raise property taxes is. So I'm all about shopping local, and you see Amazon packages on people's porches. You drive around town, and I understand Amazon. Some people think it's local now because they have a distribution center in Tennessee, but it doesn't have the same effect as buying stuff from local businesses.
That's great.
Like
David Morgan, thank you for being here.
Yes, sir.
And thank you for serving our county, doing a great job there. This hour's been brought to you by Rent Right Incorporated since 1978. We thank you. Thanks to your dad, Tony, if he's listening, and so much for being one of our first customers years ago. So, Miss Charlotte, how are we doing on time?
We are good. We
Okay.
are ready to rock and roll.
Okay.
Thank you for the
Thank y'all.
opportunity.
Thank you for that hour.
Yes, sir.
As I navigate here.
All right. I got.
It's a huge health hazard, but the problem is we could have worst case scenario 15 feet of storm surge. That would take all of this and throw it back at the houses where it was ripped out of.
The Helene cleanup continues all the way up to flood devastated North Carolina. More than 230 people were killed in the storm. More still unaccounted for. The Supreme Court is back in session.